Attack mode strategy is absolutely critical. Overtaking, however, is possible around this 3.3-kilometer circuit, as we've seen time and time again in the history of Formula E. No wins have come from pole position in the last 5 Monaco E-Prix. Will it be an omen for today's racing, or will our pole sitter hold firm? Last year's winner, Sebastian Buemi, won from as low as 8th position on the grid. Cassidy joined him on the podium from 14th, proving grid starting isn't everything. With that in mind, let's talk through the starting grid from back to front. It's Zane Maloney starting from the final position on the grid alongside Edo Mortara. Sebastian Buemi's been given a 3-place grid one. He'll start alongside Lucas de Grassi on row number 9 before we get Pepe Martin and Nick Cassidy on row 8. Norman Nato in 14th will be starting alongside one of our previous champions. Season 9 champion Jake Dennis will start from 13th. Now world champion, just 12th position. Taylor Barnard made his debut around here 2 years ago. It was starting from 11th. The top 10 sees Felipe Drugovich starting from 10th for the Andretti team alongside 2-time champion Jean-Eric Verne, struggling a little bit with the Citroën so far this round. Antonio Felix da Costa will roll up from 8th position. He's scored just 1 point in Berlin, considering the last 2 races before that were both victories. Joel Eriksson has had back-to-back dual appearances for the first time in his career. He'll be starting for 7th for Envision. It's an all-Porsche row 3 with Nico Müller after his victory in Berlin starting from 6th position, and it's championship leader Pascal Wehrlein starting from 5th after yet another podium in the second race of Berlin. From 4th position, he won from 17th in last race. It is Mitch Evans who'll be starting from the 4th position after moving up to 2nd in the championship race. It's only a second top 4 start for Max Günther. He'll be rolling off of 3rd. And then the front row, it's Nick de Vries. It's his 2nd consecutive front row start around the Monaco E-Prix. He had one in the 2nd one last year. However, he was beaten to pole position by Dan Ticktum, his 2nd career pole for the Cupra Kiro team. Cameron, Roger, is there a more iconic location to go to in the world of motorsport than the streets of Monte Carlo?
I don't think so. It is such an iconic street circuit. It's bumpy, it's tight, it's fast as well. What we're going to see with these cars today is they're going to get so close to the barriers, not because they necessarily want to, but because they have to. There's no space around here, and it's going to be a very interesting one to see the run down in towards Saint-Devote in the first corner, because it's a very short run of less than 200 meters. Yeah,
Saint-Devote, that opening corner, the run up the hill, up Beau Rivage into Massenet, the run through Casino Square, where we have the attack mode for today, down the hill towards your Mirabeau, obviously the Grand Hotel, hairpin, Portier, through the tunnel, the Nivelle chicane, that whole swimming pool section started by to back, those final couple of corners, La Rascasse and Anthony Noakes. It is just iconic corner after iconic corner. For those that love motorsport, we know this circuit through and through. For some joining us maybe for the first time, I'm sure even they know of the streets of Monaco. But understand, to understand what it takes to win around here, it's such a tough one.
It certainly is, and it's one of the oldest street circuits, the first of its kind really back in the day. But we are getting to the grid. See Dan Ticktum take us away from the pole.
3 years away from this circuit being 100 years old. The first race happening in 1929. The drivers are doing their small burnouts, working their way up the 2 grid rows into their grid position, ready for the charge, the short charge down into the opening corner. It is Dan Ticktum for Cupra Kiro. It's Nick de Vries, it's Günther, it's Evans, Wehrlein, Müller. Obviously all about to do battle. Throughout the halfway point of this race, we will pass the halfway point of Season 12 in the ABB-FA Formula E World Championship, and the title race doesn't look any clearer than it did on day 1 of this championship. The lights are ready to come on ahead of the drivers. It'll be Ticktum with the control down into the opening corner, but can he hang on? Can he hold firm? Can he hold the lead? Nick de Vries will be alongside. They are racing here on the streets of Monte Carlo. It's a perfect launch from Dan Ticktum from pole position, and he will hold the lead down into the opening corner. Side by side for second, we'll see Günther hold off from Evans, and the DS Penske will hang on. There's a bit of a charge coming in from one of the Porsches up the hill as we go up towards Massenet, the 3rd corner on the circuit. As we flick through the left-hander at the top of the hill, there has been no progress from Pascal Wehrlein. He will remain in 5th position. Things calm at the front, side by side behind all this in about 9th position as Drugovich and Verne will be going side by side. I think that one will go in favour of Drugovich for 9th place.
And Drugovich actually had to go over the curb of the first corner, but down in towards the Grand Hotel hairpin, going to see some of the first overtakings of the day, side by side for the two Porsches as they work their way through very tight, but on the exit is going to be Verline leading Muller, and Ericsson slips through on Verne behind.
Zane Maloney's backed off the rear end of the field. He started from 20th position after a crash in free practice 2, which meant that he couldn't take part in qualifying for this opening Monaco E-Prix. I think he's just trying to find his footing in this car, making sure that everything's, the last time he was behind the wheel of the car was in that crash, so making sure that everything's working all right. There is a battle a little bit further down the order as one of the Cupra of Pepe Marti was trying to get past Nick Cassidy. That was 15th position, but at the front everything is calm. It's Dan Ticktum leading from De Vries, from Gunther, from Evans, from Verline, the top 5. Nico Muller in 6th. Here's the radio. I have a puncture from Mitch Evans telling his team and his obviously race engineer Alan Cox that he's got a puncture. Will he dive straight into pit lane? No. So I'm wondering if maybe he felt like he did, or it could be a very slow puncture, I guess.
Yeah. Obviously he had a bit of tiny contact there on that first lap. I have to try and look back to see where that was. Everything is status quo though at the front of this field. No one's going for any crazy moves into turn 1 as we get onto the second lap, but Evans is still there in that 4th position. He hasn't slowed down in any way, and if anything he's actually looking right at the backside of Gunther as we come up the hill in towards the casino.
12 cars, the top 12 have remained in their starting positions. No switches in that top grouping. It's behind that when there's been a couple of bits of movement. I think it's Norman Nato who's lost a couple of positions from his starting. So in fact, actually, no, he's one of the ones that's gained a little bit. But really, not like what we're normally seeing around here. Not too much in terms of major change. There is one coming in, though, from Antonio Felix da Costa, who sweeps around the outside of the Grand Hotel Hairpin. Here's Ticktum on the radio. Obviously be running a very specific number here this afternoon with a pit stop up ahead. That move that I was saying from Da Costa, that was him getting past, I think it was Joel Eriksson, and moves his way up into 7th. Eriksson will remain then in 8th position, and Dan Ticktum, after a lap and a half complete here at Monaco, is still your race leader.
He is. De Vries had a little bit of a look there coming up towards Tabak, but nothing too much for now. 2nd place. Strong performances around here from De Vries in recent times, but not always up towards the front of this championship. But this track going very well. Of course, he will have F1 experience around here. Formula 2 champion back in the day as well. And now, of course, a Formula E champion 5 years ago now. It was, as he sits there in 2nd place. We come to end the 2nd lap as they stay in the same order inside the top 5 or so.
Very calm start to the race at present. Mitch Evans was complaining about a potential puncture on his car. Not 100% sure as to where that came from, but coming down to the Grand Hotel Hairpin on the opening lap, he was clattered into on the rear. Pascal Verline definitely hit the rear end of him going into the hairpin on the opening lap. But I'm sure the team at Jaguar TCS Racing will be monitoring the pressures with a keen eye. And at the moment, his car does remain out in 4th position. Well, mate, that 3rd, straight around the outside, he's going to go here of Max Gunther, and up into 3rd position. It's brave from Evans. It's not quite going to work though, because straight into the hairpin comes back the DS Penske, and Max Gunther will steal away 3rd position once more. A couple of those changes, they head down into Mirabeau, the right-hander, and then to the left-hand hairpin. They are coming in, but I think it's more just the controlled pace coming in from Dan Ticktum, which is just backing everyone up a little bit.
Yeah, they definitely are very compressed. There's not much space between the cars in a single file formation, working down in towards the Nouvelle chicane. In behind the Porsches, we're starting to see a move as well from Da Costa, trying to go now around the outside of Nico Muller through in the middle part of the chicane. He's made it work as he come up towards Tabak. That is 6th place.
Antonio Felix da Costa, he was the 4th man coming into Berlin and then scored just a single point there. Well, he's starting to show exactly what he's all about again. Had a great chat with him when we were doing the Gen 4 launch at the Circuit Paul Ricard in Marseille a couple of weeks ago. And obviously he's he's determined to win his 2nd World Championship, and he's certainly got the pace and consistency to do so, having joined the Jaguar TCS Racing team at the start of this year. 3 laps down, 26 left to go. Dan Ticktum remains as your race leader. The order for the top 10 behind that is De Vries from Gunther, from Evans, from Verline. Then it's Antonio Felix da Costa in 6th position, Nico Muller, Joel Eriksson, then it's Jean-Eric Verne, and Felipe Drugovich will remain the top 10.
And one thing you have to remember, we do have both the attack mode and the pit boost coming your way a little bit later in the race. The pit boost won't be open until they go, or they've used 40% of the energy, so we'll be towards halfway point in the race. But of course, attack mode will be there. Most of the drivers will use it later on. As to the outside, there's almost some contact there. Your Ericsson and Vern as we come down in towards Mirabeau. That was a very tight sequence. Through the hairpin we go now side by side. It looks like Da Costa's going to work his way through on Verline up to 5th as well.
He's charging through the field as the Portuguese driver. They said we could overtake round here. Here's Evans on the radio.
Victor has been told slow the pace even more on radio.
And the pace is about 10 seconds off of where we were running in qualifying. They are controlling the speed as Coupe Procuro, and that was an aggressive... Oh, there's a big crash as well! Oh, it's unfortunate. It's Nick Cassidy and Jake Dennis have made contact coming down the hill into the Nivelle chicane, and they will both retire from the Monaco E-Prix. Both of them are definitely out of the race. Huge bit of contact. There was a big hand coming out of the car from Jake Dennis. I don't think he's particularly happy from what he's seen from the Kiwi of Nick Cassidy. Fresh into the Citroën for this season, and no shock to anyone here in the comedy booth, or I'm sure anyone there around the Circuit de Monaco. There is a safety car deployed. We were expecting at least one this weekend. We were expecting one last weekend and we didn't get it. Well, I think we'll get our fair share here.
Yeah, that's very true. 2 races in Berlin and no safety car, as Jake Dennis is the front left corner. I mean, the tyres basically coming off the rim there as he was squeezed into the barrier on the right-hand side of the track, coming down in towards the Nouvelle chicane. I would assume Cassidy just squeezed over in the braking zone, which obviously is what they naturally do. And yes, it's actually Cassidy. He's trying to avoid the Nissan just ahead of him of Norminato.
Who was it that complained about people moving in the braking zone back in Berlin?
I think it was Nick Cassidy.
It was Nick Cassidy. Yes, you're absolutely right.
Roles reversed.
Indeed, he did absolutely move in the brake zone. I understand what he's trying to do. He's trying to avoid the car ahead, but if you're going to move back over, you've got to expect a car to be there, and I do think that one, at least from race control's perspective, will fall largely onto the shoulders of Nick Cassidy. Either way, definitely Jake Dennis is out of the race. Nick Cassidy has returned to pit lane, and I would be fairly surprised if either of those cars returned to the racetrack this afternoon. Dennis on the radio.
Oh man, Cassidy's just put me straight in the wall. Yeah, I saw it.
That wasn't quite as expletive as I was expecting from him, considering his race has just been ended. I mean, Cassidy was right in the middle of the road. There's easily, you know, 1-2 car widths to his side, so I see the space that Dennis is going for, and then he was just chopped off to the right-hand side. This is going to take a little bit of clear up, and of course, Jake's car needs to be taken out of the way as well. Cassidy has got back going, though, but Dennis is going to be definitely out of this race on location.
I think Jake Dennis's car, effectively as you come down into the Nivelle chicane, the road splits in half, and effectively you've got the run down the hill, which actually we did use when Formula E first came to the streets of Monte Carlo. We ran a shorter circuit, and at Saint-Devote, the turn 1, rather than going right and then up the hill, we turned even sharper right and then went down the hill towards where the Nivelle chicane is, and then turned around and then came back alongside the harbour. Jake's car has gone down that slip road, so I do think his car would be classified as out of the way. Confirmation of that. Safety car will be in at the end of this lap. I do agree. I was expecting a little bit more expletives on there, but clearly they're very calm. Here's Cassidy's radio. Let's see what this one's like.
Do I have any damage? You look okay. Yeah, okay, no, left front rim wheel, box, left front.
Yes, he was a little bit right-hand down on the steering wheel, so there was definitely some damage to that. I would assume he just tweaked the alignment there a little bit, so hopefully a new rim is going to sort that one out. Unfortunately for Jake Dennis, I mean, that was a big hit. Car went slightly up into the air as well, and definitely some steering damage.
So who was the other one involved? Because there was a third car. It was one of them. It was Norminato. Yeah, of course. So I'd be surprised if Norminato's escaped any damage of any kind. Either way, let's talk about the racing, because the green flag has once again returned to the circuit. We'll have 24 laps from this point, and it's Dan Ticktum continuing to lead. Through Anthony Noakes, he's going to go and lead De Vries, Gunther Evans and Da Costa the top 5. At the rear of the field, Nick Cassidy has joined the rear end at 19th position. That will not count as his pit stop being done, though. They all have a mandatory pit stop they must do during this race, and Nick Cassidy has not reached the energy point where he could come into the pit lane and it legally count as a position. Evans close to Gunther at the top of the hill, but Gunther's late on the brakes going into Massimo, the left-hander right at the top of the hill, so Dan Ticktum will continue to lead, and I'm sure immediately controlling the pace.
As he has done from the start. Championship-wide, championship leader Pascal Wehrlein is down in 6th position. Mitch Evans, second in championship, is in 4th place. But then we have Roland and Mortara, who are currently 3rd and 4th in championship, but they are way down at 13th and 17th place on track.
Nico Muller trying to make a big move to the outside of Joel Eriksson. He's actually lost out to Jean-Eric Verne. So Muller was running in 8th position. He now will be running in 9th, but he was trying to steal away 7th as returning into the paddock. Jake Dennis, crash helmet off. I don't think he'll be too embarrassed about what's happened. He'll just be like, great, that was nothing to do with me. Whilst that's all happened, by the way, speaking of tyres and speaking of infractions, it is Norman Nato who's been given a drive-through penalty for a tyre pressure infraction. Normally that would mean it'd probably be too low on the tyre pressures, starting too low. Energy reveal though for the first time this race, and at the moment, percentage-wise, everyone's looking good, but Dan Ticktum is a % lower than a few of the drivers behind. Max Gunther is the best in the top 10 at present, in 3rd.
And to reiterate that point on Nato, as in towards, wow, that was a bit of a side-by-side in towards Raskas. A little bit further back, but to be a bit more clear, that on Norman Nato, everyone is going to the limit of the minimum tyre pressures. They'll almost go too low, knowing that when they heat the tyres up by driving, that they will then get hot, the pressure will go up, but obviously they just slightly miscalculated that.
And Norman Nato has come into the pit lane to serve that penalty with immediate effect. Best energy on the field is Ede Mortara in 16th position. Unfortunately, couldn't go out in qualifying for some technical issue for the Mahindra team, despite showing some good speed, finishing in 2nd in free practice too earlier on this morning. They had 2 free practice sessions early this morning before going into qualifying, and an attack back for 5th position. It's Pascal Wehrlein trying to get past his old teammate Antonio Felix da Costa, who now sends one to the outside of his teammate in Mitch Evans. It's Evans still in 4th position. It's Antonio Felix da Costa still in 5th, and it's Pascal Wehrlein still in 6th. Those looks haven't translated into any moves. Our Google Gemini, it's our AI partner for Formula E, suggests that maybe the pit stops will be starting around lap 15, which is pretty much bang on halfway through this race. But they would only have used 40% of the energy getting into that point, and then they'll pit, so they have 60% potentially for the last 14 laps, plus the extra 10 they'll be getting from the pit stop, because obviously those pit stops will gain you 10% of energy back. Here's Mortara on the radio.
You're 1% up on everyone and right 2% on the leader.
That's good information, but he is down in 16th position, and this is not similar to what we saw at Berlin a couple of weeks ago, where I think it was Roland was just able to go past everyone to the front. De Grassi as well, they were able to do so. We're not seeing that here Jean-Eric Verne and Drugovic have all got past him in the recent couple of laps.
But the thing is, obviously, you say that you can't just scythe through the field from the back to the front like what we've seen when we were racing at move from the back to the front. Around here, we are getting a close field, but it's all more energy management, but from more of a methodical standpoint. So you have to, if you're going to carve your way through the field, it has to be really one position at a time.
Ooh, big dive from the Andretti there. Drugovic trying to make his way through, and Jean-Eric Verne, this is for 8th position. If he can do around the outside of Portier, he's going to be squeezed out, so that's going to open the door to Nico Muller to regain that position that he lost on the previous lap, and it looks like Muller has got through and regained 9th position from Drugovic.
Porsche will feel pretty happy about getting past the Andretti car there. That'll be one thing they'll be desperate not to see. Well, I probably will want to see an Andretti victory at least at some point in the season, as they are Porsche powered at the moment. But remember, if you've been following us on social media, whether that has been over on the talkSPORT social media or even on the FIA Formula E social medias, you may well have seen, even written on articles, that Porsche will no longer supply powertrains to the Andretti team as of next season. Curiosities as to who's going to be powering the American giant when it comes to the 4th generation of Formula E racing. Either way, into the focus of here and now, there was a bit of contact there between Jean-Eric Vergne and Nico Müller for 8th position going into Anthony Noakes, the final corner. Jean-Eric Vergne will work his way through. We've completed 8 laps of racing. We've got 21 left to go. It is a move from Jean-Eric Vergne at the opening corner as the Porsche got muscled out of the way. Nico Müller's dropped back into 9th position now. Dan Tickton continues to lead from De Vries and Gunther.
What that's done is it's opened up a gap of over a second between Ericsson in 7th and Jean-Eric Vergne in 8th position. This means the top 7 have broken away just a little bit at the front, though I'm sure they'll recoup that very, very quickly indeed. But just a note there, Jean-Eric Vergne was risking that position to lose the train ahead. But Ticktum is being very controlled out the front, and already by the hairpin, we're going to see Vergne catch up once more.
He is running a number at the front of the field, isn't he? Our race leader, Dan Ticktum. Nico Müller was very aggressive on the defence going up towards Anthony Noakes, the final corner. He even squeezed Jean-Eric Vergne a little bit coming off the corner nearly into the barrier. But Jean-Eric Vergne was able to find his way back through. The real struggle there was that Nico Müller was able to get to the outside of the Rascasse and nearly cleared 2 cars. That is how slow they're running around these circuits, trying to hit their energy numbers. Obviously, Nico Müller did get around the outside of Jean-Eric Vergne. He nearly did it on Joel Eriksson as well before being clattered out of the way at the final corner. Nearly 10 laps, 9 laps down rather, in the 2026 Monaco E-Prix. Ticktum is still leading. The largest gap on the field at the moment is 5 seconds. That was from Nick Cassidy to Norman Nato at the rear end of the field. Every other car on this field is separated by 1 second or less.
That was a move again between Müller and Jeb in towards the final corner. Müller was able to get through, and I think he's held that down in towards the first corner. So there goes P8 once more. They are just swinging around those positions every single lap. Oliver Rowland is down in 11th place, your current world champion as it stands, having a very controlled race. He hasn't really done too much so far. He just trying to bide his time and wait for an opportunity, maybe when pit stops come in, or maybe even attack mode later on in the race.
At the moment, the energy for our leader, 71% for our race leader. The lowest on the grid at the moment, from what I can see, was 70% for Jean-Eric Vergne in 9th position. And the thing is, for that, once you get below 60%, you can come into the pit lane. So no one's exactly rushing towards that target right now. But Jean-Eric Vergne could make an early pit stop and maybe jump a few drivers if he is able to take advantage for the Citroën team, who have been victorious already this season in the hands of Nick Cassidy at Mexico City.
And this is that's an interesting point of the race. We're a third of the way through. We're getting towards that 40% mark in terms of the race distance, but they're saving so much energy that they're not going to go over that barrier of the 40% and therefore open up the window for pit boost. So they're saving that so they can push later on in the race. The championship as it stands will be Wehrlein leading by 1 point over Mitch Evans. They're currently 5th and 6th place on track.
Mitch Evans seeking his first crown in Formula E. Edo Mortara only a few points behind, realistically, seeking his first crown in Formula E. We've, over 11 seasons, had 10 different champions. We've only had 1 repeat winner, and that is Jean-Eric Vergne. Chances of him stealing away a third feels fairly unlikely from his current position, but having jumped over to a new team for him for this season, he's starting to find his feet once again. We've completed 10 laps of racing, 68% of energy for Dan Ticktum, our race leader, but question marks are being laid at those behind. DS Penske's Max Gunther is under a lot of pressure from the Jaguar TCS racing duo of Antonio Felix da Costa and Mitch Evans, who the pair of them go side by side through Mirabeau. Now down into the hairpin, a look to the outside coming in from Antonio Felix da Costa as he's trying to piece his way past. Can he complete the move on his teammate? Let's see as they head down into Portier. It will be the 13 of Antonio Felix da Costa ahead of Mitch Evans. So 1 position switch in the hands of the Portuguese driver, who now finds himself in 4th. Whilst that's something going on, Nick Cassidy's been given a 10-second post-race time penalty for causing a collision coming down to the Nivelle chicane against Jake Dennis.
Yeah, I think that was the correct penalty for sure. No one's really going to be arguing about that one. What we're seeing towards the lower end of the top 10 is Oliver Rowland has now jumped up into 9th place, Drogovic 10th, Jean-Eric Vergne is now 11th place outside of the points as it stands, and Nico Müller has jumped all of them up into 7th place, so it's up and down. We're saying that maybe the race is a little bit static inside the top 5, but behind that, drivers are doing their best to try and find their position for when the pit stops is coming. Rowland Rowland looking down the inside. That might cost him a position to Drogovic on the exit. Round the outside of Antti knows. No, Rowland dives it into the apex and gets back ahead.
That was a big look from Ollie Rowland down the inside of Joel Eriksson into Larascas, the penultimate corner of this circuit, but certainly one that wasn't going to pay off. We're closing in on the mandatory pit stops for all the drivers. Some drivers are looking good on energy, others not so much, but with a high risk of safety car around here, it's not necessarily a bad thing to not be doing so great on energy at this point. It means you can come into the pit lane earlier, and remember, we still have attack mode to use. Not a single driver on this, well, now 19-car field after the retirement of Jake Dennis has come into attack mode yet. When they do, they will have 6 minutes of all-wheel drive and 50 extra kilowatts of power to try and work their way forward. It's normally going to be used in tandem with the pit sequence. It'll be straight afterwards. Here's Nick de Vries on the radio.
That's an interesting way of saying it. If the opportunity arises, they'll be comfortable to lead. He's 0.4 of a second behind Tiktam as it stands. But what they're saying is, we don't have to sit around all day, mate. We can go to the front if we want. However, he's got no pressure behind from Günther or the two Jaguars of Da Costa and Evans, so he might as well sit there for now and see what happens. But I guess if they want to stretch, if they want to pull away from the mid-pack, open up some gaps for when the pit boost comes into it, it is probably a good idea to do that in the next couple of laps, because we're getting very close to going under the 60%.
Well, some drivers will want to obviously have some clean air ahead of them. Some of them won't. They'll want to sit in behind and basically not use any energy that they don't have to at this point. Yellow flag's just come out of turn 18 at Larascas. I did see a bit of 3 wide. There is some damage on the front end of Sebastian Buemi's car as he is running down the order at the moment in 13th position. And there is some damage on the front end of the Porsche, I believe, of Pascal Wehrlein. Damage on the other. Have the two Porsches come to contact? Pascal Wehrlein's down to 14.
Wow, this is a huge moment potentially for the championship. Remember, Pascal Wehrlein, your championship leader. Nico Müller's in 5th place, and after a race win last time out, is really boosting himself up into be a championship contender. I think it must have been between the pair of them. They were nose to tail. Here's Wehrlein.
We will need to box. We're not ready for pit boost.
Florian Modlinger, the team manager of the Porsche squad, will not be happy with what he's seen. It's given a 7-point lead at present to Mitch Evans, who is the driver with the most victories in Formula E, who currently sits in 5th position. A disaster for Porsche. It is, I'll correct myself, it's the front wing missing on Nico Müller's car, and I believe it's a rear puncture on Pascal Wehrlein down into Larascas on the previous lap. I'm going to assume here that there was a bit of a stack up, and Nico Müller went straight into the back of his teammate. A costly error for the Porsche team, and it's a rear right puncture. Here's Müller on the radio.
Oh man, just stopped in front of me.
They will tend to do that in the braking zone.
Yeah, just a misjudgment, really. I mean, Wehrlein was 5-6 car lengths ahead of him. It's not like they were right close to each other. They had a lot of time to react to that. And as ever, they really slow down on the apex where they're bumper to bumper to bumper. But here we see Wehrlein coming in. Yes, it is a rear right puncture, and that he's going to have to repair, but he's too early for pit boost and whatnot, so this is going to be an extra pit stop, and he's going to lose so much time.
And I'll look at the numbers, but I guarantee he's too early by 1 lap, maybe 2, but realistically 1. So what really hasn't worked out for the Porsche team. Ollie Rowland's also been off the road a little bit. Here's the radio. And another puncture then for our drivers. We've obviously had Pascal Wehrlein. We've now got Ollie Rowland, world champion, the last 2 champions in Formula E, receiving punctures here after some incidents on this lap. We are currently 13 laps in. We've got 16 laps left to go. Dan Tickton will continue to lead. Drivers are almost getting ready for their mandatory pit stop, but I mean, for some of them, they might have to be coming into the pit lane just for damage repair, and it will not count towards their mandatory stop this afternoon.
I mean, Nico Muller's got no front wing on the car. Is he just going to continue on? I guess he is. He's in 6th place, and he's looking good. And now drivers are just going into the pit boost window. Nico Muller hit that coming into Raskas straight in. Jo Eriksson behind him as well. These are the first drivers to take their mandatory pit boost.
Now, because he was in his pit window, Nico Muller, he can come in, he can have the front wing repaired on the car. Do anything else on the car in that 34-second period. Once that time has eluded, they might change the front wing. I suspect they would, but there is no front wing ready. Are they just going to send him out without one?
I think so. He didn't really lose much time. He was still in the pack, and that's one thing. We're not in qualifying. We are in race trim. They're going 5 to 10 seconds a lap slower, so he might be able to get away with it, and if so, that is going to be a very, very lucky, considering it's his fault. Da Costa already using the attack mode as well. He's already inside his 6 minutes.
But he's used it before the pit stop. Interestingly enough, he is the first driver and the only driver to go into attack mode. He is using it before the pit stops. He's right on his teammate Mitch Evans. I think he is banking, and the team are banking on all 4 of the cars, being Evans, Gunther, De Vries and Ticktum, from 4th through to 1st, to all pit this time by. Race leader at the moment, before we go into those pit stops, it's Ticktum from De Vries, from Gunther, from Evans, from Da Costa, the top 5. Then it's Felipe Drugovich, Jean-Eric Vergne, Pepe Marti, Sebastian Buemi and Taylor Barnard, the top 10. Remember that in your heads, because that is going to change an awful lot in the near future as pit stops are about to begin. Straight into the pit lane comes Nick De Vries, Mats Gunther and Mitch Evans, giving clear air at present to Antonio Felix Da Costa with 4.5 minutes left to go over to attack mode.
Ticktum stays out and does the fastest lap, so he's pushing now. Finally, he's been released, and now he needs to do some fast lap times to try and get back out ahead and stay in the lead of this Monaco E-Prix. Into the pit lane is quite a few drivers getting that extra 10% of the battery life, and this is going to be important because we are now just over halfway in the race, so they're going to be have plenty of energy to come into the second half, and they can push a lot more.
I would not necessarily rule out the likes of Mitch Evans in this. We know how many wins he's taken in Formula. It's 16 victories, the most of anyone. Here's Taylor Barnard on the radio.
Remy Sweden around like crazy. He needs to have this win. He needs to be called in. Copy, we're on it, we're on it.
That's because the front wing of Buemi is flapping off some previous contacts. That was just before what we saw happen with the Porsches. We were just looking at Buemi. I don't think I was involved in that incident, but separately, Buemi does have his front wing flapping around. At the front is lap 16 of 29. Ticktum is leading, and he's got Da Costa behind on attack mode. He's already used 2 minutes of his 6 as he comes towards pit entry, which means he's going to use some of his time up in the pit lane if he chooses to do that right now, or he's going to stay out and try and use the speed on a clear track.
There is no way Antonio Felix Da Costa is coming into the pit lane this time by. We are potentially going to get a switch for the race lead. 3 minutes and 30 seconds left to go of Antonio Felix Da Costa's attack mode. Dan Ticktum will remain out on the race circuit. 13 laps left to go in the opening Monaco E-Prix of the weekend. As switching for the race lead, it's not gone the way of Antonio Felix Da Costa just yet, putting his pedal right the way through the floor. I'm sure Dan Ticktum will try and hold on from Antonio Felix Da Costa, but it means nothing. The Portuguese driver will sweep his way through into the race lead. It's Da Costa ahead of Ticktum now. 3 minutes left to go over to attack mode as he slides his way through Casino Square. I don't think Cupra will be too worried at the moment with how things are running, but I do think they'll be coming into the pit lane fairly shortly.
Yeah, they have a lot of control over this race, and they still have his attack mode left. The problem is, for now, they lost the track position, so assuming Da Costa's going to wait another couple of laps, he'll then have used his attack mode up, and then he'll be able to come in the pit lane. He might still be able to come out in the lead. We'll have to find out, because the issue for him as well is that there's quite a few drivers on attack mode right now. We've got Buemi and Degrassi, they've not stopped, but then drivers who have stopped, we've got Eriksson, Gunther, Vergne and Maloney all on attack mode, having stopped already.
There was a graphic that's just popped up on our screen which said if Da Costa takes his pit boost now, he would appear 1.3 seconds behind Nick De Vries. Now what that tells me is that Nick De Vries might become your de facto race leader post pit stops. He might even jump Dan Ticktum. Da Costa's pulling away massively. The gap's already 1.5 seconds. Still has 2 minutes left to go of attack mode, so I think he's going to have 2 more laps out on the circuit before he comes into the pit lane. Dan Ticktum for Cupra will also remain out on the racetrack. They are running their own strategy and they are comfortable with it. Into attack mode, Mitch Evans has come into attack mode. Jo Eriksson has already taken 3 minutes of his attack mode of those that have stopped. Gunther also, Taylor Barnard, Jean-Eric Vergne, Zane Maloney. 3 drivers are in attack mode but are yet to stop. One of them, of course, is our race race leader Antonio Felix da Costa, Sebastian Buemi in 4th, and Lucas de Grassi in 7th. The current order will be da Costa, then Ticktum, Drugovic, Buemi, Marti, Mortara, de Grassi and Cassidy, all those that are yet to take their mandatory pit boost. It's De Vries leading from Evans, Ericsson, Muller and Gunther, the top 5 of those that have already pitted this afternoon. Are you following me? I hope so, because I think we're in for a thrilling climax to this race.
Yeah, it's ever-changing. It was pretty stable for the first 10 to 15 laps of this race, and now they are being released. Pit boost is coming into it, attack mode is coming into it, and drivers can now push towards the front. What we're seeing is Nico Müller out there, still no front wing, so they decided is just going to be the pit boost and go, and he's currently 4th out of the drivers who've already pit, but to his outside, we're going to see Gunther, who's on the attack mode and is coming through. The issue for Müller is that he's actually got Vernon Barnard straight behind him, also on attack mode, so this could be 3 places in 1 lap.
I'm personally not in full agreement with this strategy of not changing the front wing. I do believe they should have done it. I know that these Generation 3 cars, all we're going to be having with Gen 4, we're going to need to be changing those front wings. It's going to be very aero dependent, relatively speaking. And I know these aren't crazy on the aero, but it still is quite a large part of this car. Don't get me wrong, Nico Müller's holding himself fine, but he has been passed left, right and centre. Into the pit lane then, from 2nd position on the grid, it is Dan Ticktum after qualifying on pole position, leading a lot of the laps this afternoon. He is into the pit lane, he's dragged Felipe Drugovic along with him. It's da Costa leading by 5.6 seconds as his attack mode is about to run out, and I'm sure he'll be into the pit lane this time by.
He certainly will. This is going to be close on exit. I can't wait to see how this is going to be. De Vries versus Ticktum, da Costa as well. Yellow flags out on the circuit as we're going to have to try and see who that was.
I think there was debris on the start-finish straight heading up towards the opening corner. It said it was turn 19.5. I'm going to assume that means on the start-finish straight, the note from race control there. So I believe it's debris that needed to be cleared from the start-finish. That yellow flag has since been cleared up. And Nick De Vries remains those leaders of the pit boost. We have 11 laps left to go, and now as Ticktum and Drugovic leave the pit lane, it is De Vries ahead of Ticktum. It is Evans ahead of Ticktum, but do remember, Evans is in attack mode. De Vries hasn't used his one yet. Dan Ticktum hasn't, nor has Felipe Drugovic in those top 4 positions outside of the pit boost.
So Evans is looking very good as it stands. Ticktum, is he going to go in straight away? No, goes past the attack mode and is going to continue on. So this is going to lead. It was actually De Vries who took it that time. So De Vries had to do that in defence to hold on to Evans, who otherwise probably would have passed him this lap. So De Vries is your net race leader, currently in 7 positions, but your net race leader of all the drivers who've done the pit boost. Evans behind that, both on attack mode. Ticktum, Ericsson following behind. It's just Ticktum who still needs to serve it.
Nick De Vries' last victory was Berlin. But Berlin 2022, nearly 4 years ago. That is a long time between taking to the top step of the podium for our Season 7 champion. And, he's had some great speed, he's had some great consistency, he's had some issues. Oh, that was a close one there. Felipe Drugovic was trying to get past Joel Eriksson on the run towards the back. It's Drugovic in attack mode, Eriksson in 10th position, and he will remain there, but there was almost a close clip between the pair of them heading up towards one of the fastest and most tricky and dangerous corners on this circuit. Into the pit lane comes the rest of the field. It's Antonio Felix da Costa, Sebastian Buemi, Pepe Marti, Edo Mortara and Lucas de Grassi, the top 5. Into the race lead, remains in the hands of Antonio Felix da Costa, but he has used all of his attack mode. Nick De Vries behind has 5 minutes left to go of his attack mode and sits less than half a second behind. Do you think he's going to see a switch for the race lead? As a straight to the outside comes Nick De Vries. Up towards Massenet they go, straight around the left-hander, but it is going to be the Portuguese driver Antonio Felix da Costa hanging on.
Just for now, and De Vries, he's only scored 14 points all season. If he gets on the podium today, he's going to get more than that just from 1 race, which is quite remarkable, but he's still on that attack mode. The issue is we're coming down in towards the Grand Hotel hairpin. This is a difficult point where you're not really able to use that extra power from the attack mode. Once you get through Portier here into the tunnel, down the back straight, this might be the opportunity for De Vries to take the lead, and he's going to have to do it because Evans is right behind him. It's a 3-car fight at the front.
Oh, he's defending as hard as he can as Antonio Felix Felix da Costa to keep Nick de Vries at bay, but he's 50 kilowatts less on power. He's only got rear-wheel drive versus the all-wheel drive with the Mahindra behind that has looked so fast. Topping free practice 1, topping free practice 2, topping its duels as well, and now topping the race. Comes through Nick de Vries straight to the race lead as he finds his way past into the back. It's Nick de Vries leading from Antonio Felix da Costa and Mitch Evans. Jaguar TCS Racing have been strong at this venue in the years past, and they need to switch Antonio Felix da Costa and Mitch Evans, who still has 35 seconds to go, of his attack mode. I don't believe they will switch though. They did have a 1-2 here a few years ago with Mitch Evans and Nick Cassidy. Let's see if Evans can find his way through to the outside of his teammate. He's going to go and straight through into second position, Cam.
Yeah, I think if there was a couple of more minutes for Evans, they would have had to force it to swap around. But either way, Evans got through without much assistance needed. The problem for him is that de Vries has 3 minutes extra attack mode at the front, so he's going to be able to get himself a second or so lead, and then they're going to have to defend for the final 7 laps.
But you don't get any extra energy when you go into attack mode. It still has to come out of your allotted. Technically, in this race, against 110%, doesn't it? Because you get the 10% extra from the pit stop. But obviously, when you're using your extra 50 kilowatts of power, that's a lot of energy, and that you still have to manage the race. De Vries is not going to be able to run away here, I don't think.
Yeah, that is very true. Yeah, what you mean is, of course, you have the available power to use under your right foot, but do you have that much power in the battery to get to the end of this race? That's why they were saving so much in those first 10 laps, because they knew at this point in the race, everyone would go aggressive, and then that is when you would need to be able to be on top of those things. Because the top 3 have got away. Ticktum has just started his attack mode in behind, so he is going to be chasing them down. The issue for him is that he's 5 seconds off the back of this podium fight.
21 laps complete in the Monaco E-Prix. It's de Vries who currently leads the race from Mitch Evans behind. The Jaguar TCS Racing driver of Antonio Felix da Costa sits in 3rd. Then it's Dan Ticktum in 4th. Felipe Drugovich sat right on the rear of the Cooper Kiro in 5th position. Then it's Buemi, it's Marty, it's Ericsson, Taylor Barnard and Edo Mortara. Got to give a shout out here to Felipe Drugovich, who is doing very well this afternoon, currently running in 5th position, although I've just seen his energy numbers, Cam. I'm going to take that one back.
He has got the least out of anyone. He's got 7% less than the most drive. He's on 27%, 30% for the top 3, so he's a couple % less, but he is in P5, and he actually has a 3.5 second gap behind him, so he is going to be able to recoup that, I think.
Fun fact about Felipe Drugovich, though, he's not retired. He's done 10 races. He's not retired from a single race in Formula E thus far. His personal best performance is a 7th position. He currently runs in 5th, although I think he's going to have a mammoth second half of this race and final few laps if he's able to see it out to the checker flag in his current spot. Into the pit lane comes Pascal Wehrlein. Panic everyone with Mitch Evans there. This Pascal Wehrlein into the pit lane, the season 10 champion. Not the date for Porsche. Here's Mitch Evans on the radio though.
8% for de Vries, Evans 29 for da Costa, as we have 7 laps remaining in this race. So that is good numbers for them. And even though de Vries is on the attack mode, by the way, he still has been for the last 2 laps, he's not pulling away because he's not, as you said, Lewis, using that energy. He's trying to conserve, so he's got the same energy number as them. And
the problem is, so Dan Ticktum behind, who is in attack mode and is closing in, he's closed down a second or so on the last lap. In fact, across the line, race leader 30.6. Dan Ticktum's just at a 29.4, which is about a 1.5 seconds faster than the 2 Jaguars that sit directly ahead of him. The problem is he has less energy than the 2 Jaguars ahead. So as much as he's got more power at his disposal for the next 3 minutes, which should be the next 2 laps from where he's currently running, he doesn't have the energy to use that extra power, to use that extra output to try and find his way through. And it does seem as though he may be looking at another race here in Formula E around the streets of Monaco, which proves the point of pole position doesn't really mean everything around here. In the last 5 races, pole position has been translated to a podium finish, not a victory, a podium finish on just 2 occasions in the last 5.
Yeah, that is pretty crazy considering it is Monaco, but it's a different style of racing here in Formula E. And I mean, as the race goes, I mean, De Vries is going down 14th position in the standings. Tictum is 11th place in the standings as well, coming into this. So, I mean, Da Costa even is 8th position. So it's not like all the championship leaders are at the front here. This is a different style of race compared to a lot of other things that we see at this track. So it's a very interesting one, and that is why we love coming here. Talking of things like championship leaders, of course, we saw Verline already way further back. We've also seen that Oliver Roden, 4th place in the championship. He's down in 18th position. Mortara, 3rd in the championship. He's down in 17th position. So this is a big day to swap around the numbers in the championship.
6 laps left to go of the Monaco E-Prix. Here's Dan Tictum's radio.
Right, Dan, this is on 3 minutes remaining. Everyone in front, attack mode, run out. Actually, no, they're going to start to slow the pace and make the most of this.
Yeah, sure, they might be up on a little bit on energy, but maybe they're anticipating an extra lap. Obviously, we might have an added lap here after the safety car intervention earlier on in the race. There could be an added lap here, which maybe Cooper Kiro are betting that there won't be. There is some regulations. Cam's got some numbers in front of him as to what it means, as to how long the safety car has to be out for. It's relatively complicated, but I think with the amount of time that the safety car was out, I'm not necessarily sure it's a guarantee. Attack for 3rd position. Dan Tictum's on the back of Antonio Felix da Costa. We've got 4 for the race lead. It's De Vries, Evans, da Costa and Tictum, with Tictum still in attack mode.
Oh, look at Da Costa, I should say, defending from 3rd position up towards to back. He's now dropped off the tiniest bit, a few car lengths from Evans, and now Tictum, with 40 seconds remaining on the attack mode, is right on the back of him. We're coming through the Piscine, down in towards Raskas. It's a 4-way fight for the lead now. Remember, I said Tictum is 5 seconds behind this battle. He's sped up, De Vries has slowed down, and we've met in the middle as we come out to start lap 25.
Only 30 seconds left to go of his attack mode. The switch for 3rd position sees Dan Tictum take his Cooper Kiro onto the final step of the podium. Around the outside of Antonio Felix da Costa he's going to go, and out through Saint-Devote, the opening corner. Just 5 laps left in the Monaco E-Prix. Nick De Vries continuing to lead, searching for his first victory in 4 years. Mitch Evans behind, trying to steal away his 17th career victory and extend the record after being victorious in Berlin last time out. Still searching for his first title in Formula E, but this would give him the World Championship lead if he can do it.
This is getting very tense at the front here. It's a pressure cooker of these 4 drivers. And what we are also trying to see is if Drugovich can do anything in behind, but I don't think he can. He's way too far behind now. It's actually 8 seconds. The gap's increasing with the fact that he's got less energy than these drivers. Nick De Vries is already saving energy to try and have this battle at the front. Now, what he could have done, remember, Nick De Vries, he was on the attack mode as soon as he got in the lead. He could have pulled away and got a gap then, but he decided to save for a couple of laps, save that energy, and then go again. Because if he got those seconds out ahead, he would then be saving whilst being out in the lead. Whereas you want to have all the cars behind you stack up, everyone stays consistent, and then go for the battle in the last couple of laps.
I just don't know if Dan Tictum's going to be able to get his way past Mitch Evans and Nick De Vries. I don't think he's got the energy in the Cooper Kiro, but if there was one thing that we saw in qualifying, he's definitely got the pace. 4 laps to go around the streets of Monte Carlo, to the point of what you were saying. All 4 of the cars that are in battle of the race victory, 3 of them are inside the top 10 of the championship. Just 1 is outside of it, and he's our race leader, Nick De Vries, 14th in the championship at the moment. But there is a bit of a gap appearing here, 1.6 seconds between 3rd
No more attack threats from behind, so that is interesting. So they do not think that Tictum is going to be a threat, but to be honest, I do agree with that. He's got 1% less energy and he needs to catch up. Da Costa is in 4th place. He's actually got 2% more than Dan Tictum, and with just a couple laps to go, that is a big amount. We're looking at 3 laps remaining with 13% in. That's about 4% a lap, so 2%, that's half a lap extra of energy.
Whilst it's been a good day for one side of the Mahindra garage, unfortunately for the other, not so hot, as there's been contact. I think no, just a brush between the two for third position as Dan Ticktum and Antonio Felix da Costa skip over the Nivelle chicane. They were side by side in the braking zone going down to it. It's still Ticktum ahead of da Costa. I'm sure there's going to be some radio malarkey between the pair of them. What I was going to say, drive-through penalty has just been dished out to Edo Mortara. Here's Ticktum's radio. Struggling for speed, Dan Ticktum, struggling for energy, the E-Prix that he's driving. But will he be able to see out onto the final step of the podium? Confirmation from the FIA that we have no added laps. It will just be the 29 that we've had scheduled coming into this race. And looking at the energy numbers, everyone's looking pretty fine for that number. Antonio Felix da Costa gave it a good go down to the Nivelle chicane. What do we make of this, Cam?
To the outside he goes, they're side by side. I mean, so Ticktum's on the inside and then basically goes straight over the chicane, so da Costa has to follow him. I mean, he kind of went over the chicane to defend that position a little bit, to be honest, so that is a little bit naughty. He could have made it. They were easily side by side. It's not like da Costa was ahead or anything like that. He could have made it, but he decided not to, and that has saved his third position. You heard his engineer as well saying consolidate that position. They're definitely doing that because they're falling off. They are now 4 seconds behind Mitch Evans at the front with the same energy number.
Anyone with good memory in motorsport, I'm pretty sure it reminds me of, I think it might be 2005, maybe it must have been 2006 actually, the Hungarian Grand Prix, Michael Schumacher defending from Fernando Alonso going into the chicane. There's contact in the background though, there's been a big crash, and Antonio Felix da Costa has had an issue coming down into the Nivelle chicane and will retire from the Grand Prix. His rear left wheel has been ripped off of the car, and there will be no points in the Monaco E-Prix for Antonio Felix da Costa. What has happened between him and Dan Ticktum? The yellow flag immediately comes out, and that will surely be a safety car at the fall of the race.
3, 2, 1. Full course yellow, please.
There is Marek Hanaszewski, a race director, onto the radio. I got caught up in all that excitement. I used the wrong terminology and everything. Nick De Vries is your race leader from Evans, from Ticktum, and da Costa for Jaguar TCS Racing is out.
That is amazing. The middle bit of the alloy is still connected to the brake. It is absolutely ripped off the wheel. It's lucky that didn't hit anyone, actually. But this is big news for the championship. Da Costa, 8th position in the championship. Let's see this.
So there was the attack coming down the hill. Dan Ticktum was moving over and was sitting in the middle of the road, and it did seem as though from the one angle that we've just got there, that then Antonio Felix da Costa goes up and over the rear end a little bit, not like super up and over the rear end like we saw from Pepe Marti in the opening round of the season, but certainly mounted a little bit the rear left of Dan Ticktum, which then sent da Costa out into the barrier. An onboard shot, I'm sure, will explain a little bit more as to what's happened. Dan Ticktum in the middle of the road, he does move a little bit back over, I will say. Here's da Costa's radio.
That's what happened. That's exactly what happened.
It's very true. We saw it earlier with Jake Dennis and Nick Cassidy, the same thing, but this time to the left-hand side of the track, coming down in towards the Nivelle chicane. On the previous lap, da Costa tried to go around the outside. Ticktum went over the chicane. A lap later, just like, okay, I'll go to the left-hand side, and then Ticktum chopped across his line. He was going diagonal across the track. Contact was made rear left of Ticktum to front right of da Costa, which put him in the barrier.
Well, for E-Prix, like I say, that'll be definitely...
Race control, just a quick update. We will try to recover the car, so be aware the car is on the driver right-hand side, please keep the left side. The marshals are dispatched from the track. There is no heavy-duty equipment. We are using the crane.
So they're trying to get that car moved out of the way so we can have one lap of racing, although I think we might run out of time in doing so, although I'm sure the safety car will be driving around extremely slowly. What I was going to say, for E-Prix, things are still looking pretty good for the team. Third at the moment with Dan Ticktum. Now, if there is a penalty, regardless of what happens to that, race control will give us an update on that, I'm sure. You probably have to find out on social media afterwards. Of course, you can go and follow the FIA Formula E Twitters, Instagrams and whatnot across social media. I'm sure you'll get the updates from John Jackson himself, of course, on talkSPORT, whether that is the talkSPORT Instagram or the talkSPORT Driving YouTube channel, by the way, where we do upload the full radio broadcasts of these races, so you can hear exactly what we were waffling on about back in Berlin. But what I was going to say, Pepe Marti's in 4th position, which would be be a personal best performance from him, and if there is a penalty for Dan Ticktum, he'd move up onto his first podium in Formula E. What a weekend to do it! Fresh livery on the car. Obviously, it's sponsored by Master of the Universe, a new film that's coming out, which obviously Idris Elba's in. Idris Elba's a big part of the team. He's there in the paddock there today, and we were talking about this before we went live. When Idris Elba is there, he's co-founder of the Cooper Kiro team.
What have we just done? What an absolute disaster.
I'm sure we'll be trying to manage Dan Ticktum after the race.
Yes, certainly will. We'll have to see how that comes. It is under investigation, so, well, we'll see how long it takes them to make a decision. Da Costa is back in the garage, though, so that is good to see. Fortunately for him, he was able to be extracted from the car at the swimming pool, which is very close to pit lane, so he was able to get back, and good to see that he is all well. The race is continuing on, lap 28 of 29, so I think we're going to be going around again.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I said it was under a safety car a second ago. Sorry, let me just correct myself. It is a full course yellow, so we don't have to wait for the final lap for this race to get back going. The full course yellow is similar to a virtual safety car in Formula 1. The difference is, unlike in Formula 1 where they have to go to a delta around the circuit where they're trying to hit a certain amount of time, in Formula E, far simpler, where they literally just hit effectively your pit speed limiter button and you drive round at that speed. So there is no safety car out on the circuit, and it does mean that we can go back racing realistically with a corner to go.
Absolutely. The tyre temperatures and stuff a lot less important in Formula E because we do use more of a road compound Hankook tyre, which means they'll be able to get up to speed very quickly indeed. And as you say, when we get back to green flag racing, hopefully they will be able to just undo that limiter. The car is still halfway around the swimming pool, being pushed on a dolly, it looks like, by the marshals, getting hopefully about half a lap of racing to the end. The good thing with this is that they have about 7% of energy, so they can go flat out for this final half a lap, but we'll have to see if they are able to do so. De Vries is coming through the casino. The car is in the piscine, so they do have about half a lap before they get to where the contact was.
Cameron Roger trying to go a little bit French on you. La piscine, if you don't know, is the swimming pool section, i.e. the bit where they go from left to right and then back from right to left after the back. Nice one.
I did my GCSE.
Attention to all teams.
I definitely didn't.
Full course yellow ending in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Green flag, please.
Confirmation from Marek Hanaszewski. We are back racing. Nick De Vries leading though by around 2 to 3 seconds by the time we are putting the throttle pedal down once more. It's De Vries through the final complex of corners and into the tunnel. He is running away with things here today.
He certainly is. It's been 44 races since his last win. That was 4 years ago. He's, of course, your champion in Season 7, and he was then having some difficult times, but he's now back to the front. He topped FP1 and 2, and now he's looking to top the race.
Fun fact, it's not just 4 years, it's pretty much 4 years to the day. 4 years and 1 day ago, Nick De Vries was last victorious in the AWFIA Formula E World Championship. Into the final complex of corners he's going to go now, and he's going to lead Mitch Evans across the line. It's a fantastic victory for Mahindra. It wasn't quite the pole position earlier on in the day, but after a long wait, 4 years between victories, it's Nick De Vries back on top in Formula E. Evans across the line into second position behind will take over the lead of the World Championship.
And in behind on the track, at least, is going to be Ticktum coming across in third position. Question marks over that, pending a penalty. And it's going to be Pepe Marti in fourth position, getting ahead of Felipe Drugovich. And that's going to be his best ever finish in Formula E.
Best result for Marti, best result for Drugovich. Drama and drama, drama. Exactly what we want in the AWFIA Formula E World Championship. If you're going to stay with the coverage, we will be getting interviews from the top 3 as well. So very interesting to see whether the top 3 will remain De Vries, Evans and Ticktum. We'll have to wait and see on that one. We should be able to hear from those 3 before we need to let you go. But De Vries, fantastic performance. Here he is on the radio. Or maybe not, unless you want to do, again, this is like last week, do you want to do the celebrations, Cam? Nick De Vries, I'm sure we'll be hearing from him inside the cockpit. I mean, to win anywhere in the world of motorsport is a very special and significant thing. To win at Monaco, that is something very, very different indeed. And for Nick de Vries, that is a great performance. It doesn't quite put him in the top 10 of the championship. He'll only be in 11th position, only a single point behind Dan Ticktum, who also joins him on the podium. For Mitch Evans, it would be a 15-point lead at present over Pascal Wehrlein. And this is the interesting thing. The top 6 of the championship, only 2 of them scored points. Mitch Evans with second. There was no points for Wehrlein, no points for Mortara, no points for Roland, 1 point for Nico Muller, and no points for Nick Cassidy. It is a bad day for those in championship contention.
And if you extend that to the top 8 in the championship, Dennis and Da Costa also didn't score points.
Yeah.
So this is incredible what we've seen here at the Monaco E-Prix, where so many of the top scorers in the championship didn't score the big points, which closes everything up. Apart from Mitch Evans, as you're saying, second place in the championship, second place on the road, then promotes him into the lead. That is a big, big day for him, considering how frustrated he was at certain points. But he is looking to come off a win last time out at Berlin, and then a second place here.
And if you want to speak of frustration, for Mitch Evans, looking back to last season, it was the last time he led the NBFA Formula E World Championship. He won the opening race of the season, and then I'm not going to beat around the bush, Cam. He really struggled after that point. There were some points where I was thinking, is he going to leave Jaguar TCS Racing? And then Nick Cassidy ended up leaving. It was a horrible season for Mitch Evans. Not quite from start to finish, but from just after the start to the finish, it wasn't a good season. This season's looking a little bit more like it, even though it started out a lot worse. Retirement in 11th for him. Here's Ticktum's radio.
I need to have a look at the details of why we've made that decision, but from where I'm sat, I cannot see why we would have done that.
Strategy.
Exactly. What decision is he talking about there?
Yeah, he basically just talking about the strategy. They were leading for so long, they then decided to pit basically the latest, or one of the latest people, and then it just caused some issues. They were 5 seconds behind after the pit stop sequence, so they really got that one wrong. The likes of De Vries going earlier, Da Costa using attack mode just before the pit boost as well. They were able to jump them.
Again, I wouldn't say it was the most thrilling race that we've ever had, but it still was plenty exciting. We have just received confirmation from Race Control, a drive-through penalty which is going to be converted into a 33-second time penalty. Dan Ticktum for causing a collision. That will promote Pepe Martin. Disappointed, but for the team, at least they still get the podium, and at least the rookie driver is going to stand onto third.
Yeah, so that puts Pepe Marti in third, Drugovic in fourth, Buemi, your winner from last year, in fifth position. So Ticktum is going to drop down to 12th place, agonising 2 places outside of the points. That puts Lucas de Grassi up into P10. Is that his first point of the year? Yes, it is. Lucas de Grassi, finally, for the Lola Yamaha app team, getting a point, which means every single driver on the grid has scored a point this season, which is always a really nice thing, and also for a team who struggled a little bit this weekend. What a crazy race here. I mean, Pepe Marti, he was upside down first race of the season in Brazil, probably not thinking just a couple of races ago he'd be a Monaco podium finisher.
And inside the top 10 of the championship. We'll be getting an update from our top 3 in the race as they're all just getting themselves ready for the interviews. It will probably happen pretty sharpish, so we will shut up as soon as it does. But of course, the drivers will receive their photographs. I mean, whether you've done it in Formula 1, whether you've done it in Formula 2, or here in Formula E, taking to a step of the podium at this championship, at this level, around these streets, is a very special occasion. Yes, we get to do it again tomorrow. It is a different style of race tomorrow in the fact that we've got no pit stops and 2 attack modes, but it's still thrilling to take to this podium.
We also have Ticktum and Da Costa under investigation for not following the race director's instructions. That'll be when they cut the chicane. There will be a certain cone that they have to go around as well. So if there's further penalties, that just adds insult to injury.
But neither have scored points, so it actually won't matter too much. It might give them a grid penalty for tomorrow, though. Of course, you can update all of that on social media. We'll head down. I think we've got David Coulthard going to be chatting to our podium finishers, starting with Nick de Vries in just a second. Of course, those celebrations coming in from the drivers. Pretty relaxed at the moment, as I think they're all going to try and find Pepe Marti. But for Nick de Vries, it's been a superb performance and a brilliant victory again in the ABBFA Formula E World
Nick
Championship.
De Vries, not your first victory in Monaco. You've won here twice before in Formula 2, but your first victory in Formula E must be a great feeling.
Yeah, definitely, and the first one for Mahindra as well, together at least. It's been a great day. We had great pace. The car was amazing, and the team did, a great execution, right course at the right time. We had the right energy to push during the pit window, and won our first race together. I'm a little bit emotional because it's been a pretty rough start, and we've been kind of at the receiving end for a little bit, and it just shows that you have to hang in there, and better times will come.
Don't hold back the tears if you're feeling emotional. We won't judge you. This is the first victory for Mahindra in the Gen 3 era. It's been a journey together, so for the team as well, really special.
Yeah, I mean, in 24, I joined the team and we were penultimate last, and last year I think we had a great year already, coming to B4 in the team's championship, so we're obviously more ambitious than that, so I'm very happy to be with the team, and I think the vibe within the team is great, so we just have to keep it going.
So quick summary of the race for us. Any moment during that where you were starting to feel uncomfortable, or did you always see that this was the big picture result?
I mean, obviously, theoretically, this was the perfect plan, and it worked out well, but obviously you gotta do the job during the pit window. You gotta have the energy, and that worked out well.
Okay, congratulations, enjoy the podium.
Fifth victory there for Nick de Vries. Now joining him will be Mitch Evans. Most victories in Formula E's history, and another podium to add to Mitch Evans' repertoire. Again, Evans has been so strong in Formula E. It is great to see him onto the top of the points table. He's been brilliant so far this season, despite those first two races where he hasn't scored any points. He has absolutely flown strong since for Jaguar TCS Racing, and he'll be catching up with David Coulthard in just a second's time. A lot of celebrations there down in the paddock, as you'd expect.
Another podium. You now go to the top of the championship standings. Tell us about your race.
Thanks. Yeah, it was a pretty straightforward race. There's a few hairy moments. Obviously, strategy was key today. I didn't race so well at the start of the race. Probably could have been a bit more aggressive, but just being a little bit cautious. But kind of came towards me after the pit stop, and the pit window were quite quick. So to get P2 is just great. Great points. Full credit to Nick and Mahindra. They've been rapid all day, so it was always going to be a big task to try and beat them. So I'll happily take P2 and the 18 points and move on to tomorrow.
Right at the start of the race, we saw the hairpin. There was contact with the rear of your car. You came on the radio saying you thought you could have a puncture, but obviously that didn't manifest itself.
No, fortunately not. I got hit a few times, and then one felt like the next few corners I could feel the rear a bit nervous, and I was like, I've felt that before, but the pressure seemed all right, and I don't know, I got away with it, so it was very, very fortunate that there was no puncture and we could charge on after that.
We're at the halfway point. You're leading the championship. Is it starting to feel like your year?
I've been here before, so I'm not going to get carried away, but these results are huge at this stage of the championship, so keep trying to accumulate it, and just race by race.
Okay. Enjoy the podium. Congratulations.
Thanks, guys.
So well deserved, isn't it, Cam? I mean, to have had that as a performance, to get another podium and to lead the World Championship, he's been brilliant, hasn't he?
Oh, he certainly has, and he's been basically Mr. Consistent, and that is why he's up there in Formula E. You see up and down from the results from all these other drivers.
Mitch Evans, then that is another, was it 7 consecutive top 10 finishes, 5 of which have been podiums, 1 of 6, 1 of 7.
And
Here's Pepe Marti.
Podium finisher. Well, it's great to be able to look up to a driver. You've got the height, you've got the looks, and you got the result, 3rd place.
Yeah, obviously the reason for it, I was sitting in the wait, and I obviously didn't know what went on. I only saw sort of an incident, but yeah, I mean, I was really happy with 4th. I mean, it was my first top 5, and yeah, I mean, obviously it hurts to see that Dan was the one to fall out of the podium, but nonetheless, it's a great result, and to do it at Monaco, I mean, there's no better place to do it, so yeah.
Yeah, obviously disappointing for Dan, well, that's under that review, but for Cupra as a team, it's been a brilliant day so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the car's been on fire, you can tell. No pole position for Dan, and then I've been able to move up from 15th all the way to 3rd, so yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, I'm really still a bit shocked because, you know, I didn't expect it. I came across the line, I came 4th, I was really happy with it, and yeah, to be here right now is a bit of a dream.
Well, you're going to have the taste of champagne very soon. Enjoy that podium.
Thank you very much.
And there, thank you to David Coulthard, and thank you to our top 3, all caught up there. I mean, Cam Roger wrapping up our first race here in Monaco. What are you made of that, and what are we going to get tomorrow?
So we've got the same again tomorrow in terms of a Formula E race, but it is different because it is 28 laps, it's 1 shorter, and we have 2 attack mode zones as well. It's going to be a whole load of fun, and with how, you know, how inconsistent all the results were today, I can't wait to see how the championship is going to look after the race tomorrow.
Well, certainly so. Let me update you with the race finishers positions. It's Nick de Vries taking his first victory in 4 years, ahead of Mitch Evans and Pepe Marti, his first podium in Formula E. Behind that, it's Felipe Drugovich in 4th, Sebastian Buemi into the top 5, Joel Eriksson in 6th position with Taylor Barnard, Max Gunther, Nico Muller and Lucas de Grassi the top 10. Nick Cassidy will finish in 11th position with Dan Ticktum, Zane Maloney, Norman Nato, Ollie Rowland, John-Eric Verne, Edo Mortara and Pascal Vale on the finishers. Retirements from the race, Antonio Felix da Costa and Jake Dennis. It's been a fantastic Monaco E-Prix, and be sure to join us tomorrow. We'll be live at 1:30 with all the pre-show and build-up on talkSPORT 2 from John Jackson. I'll be very excited to see exactly how the race is going to unfold. A 28-lap thriller I'm sure we'll be getting once again here at Monaco tomorrow afternoon. From myself, Liz McGlade, from Cameron Roger, and for all of us in the ABFA Formula E World Championship, we thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again tomorrow for another Monaco E-Prix.